Hi, I am Alyson Croft, and this is TMFA Technique Tuesday, and I'm here with the wonderful Frank Levey, casting director extraordinaire. Thank you for coming and talking.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. So I'm not sure, I can't really tell if people are on at the moment, so I'm just going to go ahead and introduce Mr. Levey and just read the back of the book because that kind of says a lot of stuff. So Frank Levey, 4-time Emmy Award-winning casting director, cast such iconic television shows as China Beach, ER, The West Wing, and Shameless, and Smith, as well as dozens of other television series, miniseries, TV movies, digital series, video games, and feature films. Levey is also a 5-time winner of the Casting Society of America's Artios Award and the recipient of the prestigious Hoyt Bowers Award, given for excellence in casting and outstanding contributions to the casting profession. After decades at Warner Brothers, Levey became vice president of casting for John Wells Productions before launching his own casting company. Right for the Role is his first book. How did you feel, what was the experience writing the book?
It was an amazing experience. It was during the pandemic, Alyson, so I was bored, frankly, and I did a podcast for an acting teacher here in L.A., and afterwards she said, boy, we could have talked for 2 hours instead of a half hour. You got a lot of stories, and why don't you write a book? And I launched into song, and I said, if you asked me if I should write a book, I would tell you you are a stupid schnook, something like that.
Right.
But but she introduced me to the woman who had written a branding book for her, and we met and talked on Zoom, and she put me at ease and talked about what she knew about me already and encouraged me to join forces with her and do this, what turned out to be this book. At the very first time I met with her, her name is Trudy Roth, she's on the cover of the book, as told to. I said to her, Trudy, I know I have a lot of stories and I've had a lot of experience. I've been doing it for almost 40 years. If you don't have a lot of stories and experiences after all that time, what the hell were you doing?
Right.
But I don't know what the book will be about. But in the course of talking to her, and she put me through a lot of exercises, I had to send her emails every day of the memories. And I would do it, whenever something would pop into my head, I would type an email to her, and she was collecting them, and eventually she started to organize them, and eventually I realized that the book was about me finding my role in a community of collaborative people that worked in a respectful way that gave us all an opportunity to contribute to excellence.
Right. And you sure did that. So if you don't mind, I'm going to read a little bit of the foreword of what John Wells said, because I don't think it could have been said any better. What makes a great casting director? Exceptional taste, integrity, patience, thoughtfulness, and understanding of narrative and text, compassion, joy at discovery, incredible people skills to handle all the lunatic writers and directors stomping through your office, and a love of acting and of actors. John cares deeply about the craft of acting. He nurtures talent, and he understands the incredible courage it takes to become an actor. He has so much to say. Listen. I always have, and I'm much better for it. And just from what I know of you, I know that, and I've felt that myself. And it's touching because you, whenever I would get a call to come in to read for your office, it was this excitement because I know it's a big office, but I also knew that you championed acting and that I got a chance to go in and do stuff that I didn't feel like I could do other places.
Well, I really appreciated when you said that, and I can't read John's foreword because it just makes me into this boo-hoo idiot. I asked him if he would write a foreword for me, and I thought he would do something, perfunctory and sweet and acknowledge our relationship and the work we did together. But I didn't have any idea that he would say that. And it's interesting to me because that part of the book, the foreword, and the very last chapter of the book, which I think we called Other People's Memories, where there are people's... I sent emails to a lot of actors, writers, producers, and directors that I'd worked with over all those years and said, hey, I'm writing this book, and would you mind... would you feel comfortable about writing a few sentences about your experience working with me? Well, first of all, I thought maybe 8 people would respond, and maybe 80% of the people I sent it to responded. And also, none of them understood the concept of a few sentences.
It's hard. How do you write it in a few sentences?
So, because I thought it was going to be for promotional stuff, for the blurb, for the back of the book, but then it turned into this whole chapter. My dear friend Carol Flint, who was a writer on China Beach and ER and The West Wing, and we developed things through her, other pilots as well. She asked me, are you really writing a book, John, or are you just collecting accolades?
I need a boost in the morning.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like being at your funeral, but still being alive.
Yeah, well, that's great, right? Well, he made it, it's short, but that's what is so great about it, is that it's so packed. There is not a wasted second of words and
well, among the many things that John
everything.
Wells is, he's a very good writer.
Well, yeah, duh. And for those of you who don't know, you should know John Wells, creator of all of the shows that we're talking about, and
yes, and more, including a few that didn't work.
Yes, which would be Smith, and we'll get to that. But,
yes.
Okay, so I just want to talk about one really great story, because the book is like, you talk about the mobile that you know, and it's a thread through the book.
Right.
And you've done that with the book. Like, it's family, it's personal, but it's business, and it's all just kind of weighted and balanced great. But one of the stories that got me so tickled was John Levey, when you were in your 70s, in 1970s, and you were working for Breakdowns.
Right.
And here is John Levey at this time, and he has pictures of himself here. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's John Levey in all of his glory, going to bust actors who have illegally gotten the breakdowns.
Uh-huh.
This story, when you told me, can you guys see this in there? When I heard the story, it was so visual. I just closed my eyes, and I could imagine John Levey walking up going, all right, actors, put down the breakdowns. This is illegal.
Yeah, drop it.
You drop it. Like, he calls himself the heavy in there. And it just, it's so funny for an actor's life,
Yeah. Well, Gary Marsh, who runs Breakdown Services, was very great to hire me to work for him when I was trying to figure out where the hell Hollywood Boulevard was, which I'm still apparently trying to figure out.
It's tricky.
I got lost on the way here. But he was incredibly protective of the breakdowns because they were copyright.
Understood.
And he knew that there were actor collectives that were siphoning them off their manager's front porch early in the morning.
Absolutely.
And he was rightfully protective of it. Was his business, and it was his, but it did turn out to be a kind of a lot of fun to be sneaking around and busting actors who thought they were getting over on things.
Yes, it is serious. You don't want to mess around with the breakdowns or get them illegally. But I can just imagine the picture of the types of actors sitting around smoking cigarettes, stressing over like, what role can I come in for?
Exactly.
How can I? So I thought that was a really just a absurd, funny, serious story, but it was also...
it's perhaps the one moment that I wasn't compassionate towards actors in my life.
Oh. Okay, so I love that you also call yourself a vibist, right? I have this exercise in my classes. It's like the vibe exercise. It's the essence exercise.
Uh-huh.
Like, what are they giving me? Why do you think that this is like a pivotal skill for you and your success?
Well, I first of all, a very, very, very dear friend of mine read the book in an early form and said, a vibist is someone who plays the vibraphones. What are you talking about? You don't mean that. Change that. That's no good. And I thought about it for a while, and I respect her opinion terrifically. And ultimately, I thought, she's wrong. Vibes are the things you get off other people, and someone who can play the things that you get off other people can call themselves a vibist if they damn well feel like it.
That's right.
So, and I have, from a very early age, and I don't know why or where or why or what, what it came from or any of that, but I did have an innate sense of you all. I got you. I knew what you made me feel or think, or how I reacted to you told me what you seem like. I mean, obviously there can be a huge difference between what you seem like and what you feel like yourself on the inside as in a private moment. And people see, I don't love the word what's her type. Mm-hmm. I like to say, what are her qualities? Mm-hmm. And and actors have asked me, and I've said before, well, how do I know what my qualities are? And I would say, how does the world treat you? If no one confides in you, you don't seem trustworthy. Mm-hmm. If everyone confides in you, you do seem trustworthy. The truth is, you might be a big fat gossip, but you seem trustworthy. If people flirt with you, your sexuality is present. If no one ever flirts with you, it's probably buried. Yeah. If the elevator door opens and you're on the elevator, and a young mom with her child in a stroller takes one look at you and doesn't get on the elevator, you seem dangerous. Right. And that's how you can, and I think it's important for actors to kind of catalog how the world treats them. What is the gal at the dry cleaners? Does she engage with you? Does she exchange humor and jokes and such? Or is she all business? And that may say something about how she sees you. Right. And then we'll know what role we're right for.
Right. So how we show up in the world is what an exceptional casting director does, and takes note of that ability.
Exactly. And for me, it was innate. I as a little boy, I could tell when my mother was unhappy.
Yeah, sure.
So I got attuned to other people's feelings.
Mm-hmm. So I also related to a lot of it when you talk about the emphasis on community and generous actors and creative collaboration. And I really try to get that across to actors these days, because people want to just skip theater and they want to go straight to TV and film. But, there is that sort of,
let's put on a show.
Yeah, and that great collaboration that you get. So I try to foster that in my class, my Zoom classes and my in-person classes, that when, it's not just in the role, it's important to be generous and be available to be affected Absolutely. by your partner, but also to have that spill over into life. So if you need a reader, you can call your buddy from class.
Right.
We don't always have to use our girlfriends or our neighbors,
especially if they're accountants.
Yeah, and they're not actors. It's so this as best I can try to foster this community without it being in the actual theater and putting on a show and things like that.
Well, Alyson, I was in college in the magic years, 1965 to 1969. Don't do the math. And community, the collective. The power that we got as students, as the power that women got, the power that minorities, particularly or quickly the African American community, by forging that unity and that community, that increased their access to everything. Our access to everything. And so community, and I lived on a commune at a certain point in my life, and I'm that teamwork, it's not a new idea, but it's certainly an idea that appeals to me and is supported by my life.
Great. That's so great. So you also, that leads me into when you talked about building 140, because I do remember that office and how everyone had all the were casting all different shows. And so the waiting room was kind of a communal room, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm finding is absent now.
Yes.
But I grew up in those rooms. So I was the little girl with no teeth sitting next to the
motorcycle
biker.
guy.
Yeah. One time in particular, real quick story, I was auditioning for something. I couldn't have been more than like 17 or something. And Henry Winkler walks down the hall. And he looks at me and he goes, "What are you reading for?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just reading for things." He goes, "Let me see." And he sits on the ground with me and he coaches me on this audition. And I was like, "Oh, the Fonz and I are just sitting here, shooting the shit, like, whatever." But that sense of like, there's a sense of nerves in the waiting room, but there's also a sense of like,
we're in it together.
And
if I don't get it, I hope you do.
I'm definitely that person for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So I just, and there's so many stories like that. On Christmas time is my favorite to go on commercial auditions because Santas are just leaving auditions on Sunset Boulevard like all day long. And it's just, there's the sense of like, we're having fun.
Yeah. I think the important thing to accentuate on top of what you're saying is you're getting to do what you love.
Absolutely.
An audition isn't before, I hate the phrase pre-read for casting directors because pre to what? It might be just what it is. But it's an opportunity to do what you love. Every time you get a chance to act, celebrate.
Sure.
And that also, I think, part of the book is about demystifying the so-called power of the casting director, that I'm somehow the wall between you and the job.
Right.
And in fact, I like to say the funnel between you and the job, and I want to help you get the job that you're right for.
Right.
Because that'll enhance the project.
I can ultimately, unabashedly say yes, absolutely. That's absolutely how I felt every time going in.
Good.
For your office.
And then you were pretty much, you might have been, you were 3 for 5 or something.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. But what I loved about it was I could, I didn't do this, but if the role required me not to wear a bra and go in swinging, I would have, and I would have felt free to do so. Not that I did, or none of that. But that feeling of freedom that is just, I just want you to start.
We were trying always to create an environment where you could do your best work.
Absolutely.
And I did that a lot by playing the fool, as you perhaps remember. I would go out in the hallway and goof around about something or point out that, oh, you two are up against each other again, and try to keep everybody loose and focused at the same time.
Right. There was always a sense of professionalism, but I knew that like the work is what mattered going in there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I smiled on this line or popped on this line or did all that stuff that nowadays are becoming, I guess, the status quo for coaching, which is...
I guess. But coaching the outside of your audition is a stupid idea.
So dumb.
Coach the thoughts and the feelings and the beats of the scene and understand how you can marry your imagination, your technique, your training, your body, your voice, and your experiences to the circumstances of the character. And then jump out of the plane, pull the cord, and hope the damn thing opens.
Let it rip. Yeah, so you do mention results-oriented versus process-oriented notes. And that's how I teach also.
I'm sure.
People want this fast, like, tell me how to say it, what to inflect,
where should I
line.
cry?
Yeah, where should I cry? No, it's the reasons why. And it's hard to get people on board to realize it takes a little bit of work.
Yeah.
Well,
unfortunately, our community in film and television is susceptible to, the instant stardom fantasy. Mm-hmm. And I always tell the kids when they come out of those programs, Juilliard and Yale and, Carnegie Mellon and NYU Tisch and all the good programs, it's not going to happen tomorrow. And then somebody will get a series their first week in L.A., and that sort of screws up my have the long view idea. But, I mean, I think you've got to have the long view. You're not the same girl you were at 17 sitting on the floor with Henry Winkler.
No.
And you've had a million experiences since then.
Yeah.
And if you're talented and judicious and hardworking, you'll grow and change from all of those experiences, and you'll be better.
Mm-hmm. I'm certainly better in my work now than I ever have been. But, you know, you also have to kind of keep experiencing life, like you mentioned in here, and finding your integrity. And I think you said, "Don't be a jerk" club. Is that? Did you say that?
Somebody at Warner Brothers said, I think it was the no assholes rule.
Right. I'm really down with the no asshole rule. I live that life.
You know, in the whole idea of creating community, don't be the person who busts the community open with your own selfishness.
Right.
It's not gonna lead anywhere good.
No, it's not. So let's see if we have some questions. Do we have questions here? Let me get these glasses on because I ran over my glasses with the car. So, Jeff, he's learning about himself. Good. I don't know what.
Well, good to be learning about yourself,
Yeah.
Jeff, and all of you, because that's what you have, and it's enough. But it's also expandable, right? So, and as you just said, keep being out there. I jokingly say, if you love baseball, go to the opera.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It might be boring as hell the first time, but if you love opera, baseball's probably boring as hell.
Right.
But the more different experiences you have, and don't blow on the coals of conflicts in your relationships, but feel the feelings that happen in your relationships, the joys and the sorrows. One of the people who read the book early on was my ex-wife, and she said, "God, you had a great career and you really loved what you were doing. That's so great for you. Why'd you have to talk about our marriage so much?" And I said, "Well, because when it was good, it fed me, and when it was not so good, I found a way for it to feed me."
Yeah. You really go into it, and you're transparent. You don't go too far,
No.
but you go far enough to where we really get a.
Well, that's
sense
another
of-
contribution that Trudy made. She really said, this can't just be a collection of anecdotes. We have to tie it together on you, and so it has to be personal. And so, tell me some stories where you're vulnerable and hurt and disappointed and feel like you failed, and because that way people will connect more, because that's everybody's experience.
Yeah. Right. Okay. In an audition, David McDowell asks, "Hi, Swati. Hey, Kenzo. Okay. In an audition, the CD asks, 'Do you have any questions for me or us?' What questions do you ask? Word or name pronunciation for clarifying, or what is my framing for the audition if it wasn't specified? Is anything expected?" So what are your thoughts on questions?
Well, if you have a question, let it be a really pertinent question. Like if you're reading for ER and you're reading a doctor and you're prescribing a particular medication, go to the pharmacist before Google, when we were doing ER, and find out what that drug does, what its purpose is, so that you know the circumstances of what you're dealing with. In those days, pharmacists loved having actors come into the CVS and say, "What's Dilaudid?"
Well, a lot of people know what that is these days.
Yes, by
but
now,
yes.
unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes. Okay, so does that answer the question? So I think if it's a relevant question, I get this a lot too, and usually I've done all my homework, and I feel like if I'm ready to go at a call and I don't really have anything that needs to be answered, I'm not going to ask a question just to kind of have a rapport. I'm
Please
just
don't.
like,
No, I'm ready. If there's something that my work brings up for you, I'm happy to take an adjustment.
Right.
If you think I've answered the question in some way that is not what you're looking for, I can make that adjustment. Please let me know.
So, that's good. So if somebody does they read, and then you're like, "All right, great, thanks, see ya," and they stop and say, "Hold on, can I try it a different way?
It used to be my least favorite remark.
But did you get it a lot?
A lot.
Okay.
And the thing that was why it was not a favorite request was that almost 100% of the time they didn't do it a different way. If you granted them permission to spend 15 more minutes with you, and then they did it the same way, essentially.
Are you finding that with the self-tapes? Because
Well,
now
there
it's
aren't
like...
adjustments so much in the self-tapes.
So with self-tapes, now it's kind of like the way we think about it is, okay, if you have two separate ways you can do it, then you can record two and send in two. If they get to it, that's out of your hands. But if you
Right.
do... So what I'm finding with coaching people is they think very minor adjustments are huge on camera. They can see it, but it's like, would that be annoying to get two? I would assume it would be, to get two of pretty much similar...
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
you're just changing one outside thing, and it's like actors on stage. Thursday night we had the greatest performance. Friday was a dud. And the truth is, if I went to see the show both of those nights, it would essentially be the same show.
Right.
So actors who are evaluating their own performances from outside themselves are doing themselves a disservice. Think your thoughts, feel your feelings. What if yourself into the circumstances of the character? Find the places where you marry with the character.
Absolutely.
And find the places where you don't, and then use your imagination to fill in the gap. It's. I don't mean to simplify it like it's not hard work, because it is.
Sure.
But it's also not all that complicated.
Right.